All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So yesterday's news of Elijah Moore officially requesting a trade came out of left field. It shocked a lot of people, including myself. I mean, I was floored. When I saw that tweet initially from Rapoport, like my stomach dropped and I'm like, no way this is real. Fake account. And then I click on it. I'm like, oh no, it's actually Rapoport. I'm like, this is nuts. Like, this is absolutely crazy. And I felt like it really happened out of nowhere. I really felt like after the Packer game, that's kind of where it started, where he took to Twitter, voiced his frustration about, apparently getting no looks in the game, according to Rich Cimini. And I guess it just boiled over from there, unless it was a small accumulation of things going back to last season. But the bottom line is Elijah Moore has officially requested a trade. I don't think you get to that point if you aren't serious about it, or if you're just having a bad day. I think that's a big statement to say, let me go. I've only been playing for not even a year and a half in the NFL, and I want to leave. This football team is winning, and I still want to leave. Now, the Jets haven't given any sort of indication that they will be trading Elijah Moore, but I want Joe Douglas to do his due diligence, right? I want him to leave no stone unturned. If he's getting a call, and the person on the other end of the line says, "Hey, what's going on with Elijah Moore? He requested a trade." I don't want him to hang up the phone. I want him to say, okay, well, hold on. What are you offering? Right? I think that's just the responsible thing to do. I know there's a push within the organization to keep Elijah Moore, obviously super talented, super cheap. There's a lot of really, really good, really attractive things that he could do on a football field. Great system fit as well. You don't want to just get rid of a guy like that overnight. I get that. But again, at the same time, I don't want to miss out on a potential opportunity. Maybe you get a nice haul back in return for him. So all I'm saying is, if teams are calling about more, let's listen to some offers here. I mean, we're just under 2 weeks away from the NFL trade deadline, which is November 1st at 4 o'clock Eastern. So it should be interesting. I'm expecting a bunch of rumors up until, from this point up until then. But I think there's really two schools of thought when it comes to other teams inquiring about Elijah Moore. Maybe not so much specifically about Moore, but just players that have requested trades for strange reasons, or, guys that seemingly want out of their organization when everything is fine. You have the one school where maybe you can lump the Rams into this, the Cardinals as well, where it's like, hey, we don't really know. We can't really put our finger on what exactly is going wrong in New York, but hey, you're cheap, you're talented, we're going to have you under control for a long time because of the rookie contract. Let's do a deal, right? We've seen that time and time again, where, especially a team like the Rams, they'll take on a Marcus Peters, they'll take on a Jalen Ramsey, they'll take on a player that wants out of their their previous organization, and they just welcome them aboard. Okay, then you have the other school of thought, and we could probably lump a team like the Atlanta Falcons into this group, where it's like, hey, we're trying to really build something from the ground up. We don't want to risk self-implosion, if you will. We don't want to acquire players that are going to be a distraction to the team. So it's like, yeah, Elijah's good. He's going to be super cheap. We'll control him for a long time. But what's going on here? Why does he want out of New York? This team is winning football games. He does fit the offense. So we're actually just going to hold off. Okay, so with that said, the two schools of thought, I think there's 5 teams that make a lot of sense for Elijah. The first, ironically enough, is the Green Bay Packers, right? And you can make an argument. This is where all the drama initially started, after that Packers game. But look, Green Bay, they have a nice young core of wide receivers: Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Alan Lazard. I'm a big fan of all 3 of those guys, okay? But they have some older players as well, like Sammy Watkins and Randall Cobb. If the Packers want to slowly infuse young talent into their wide receiving room without having to, use another first round pick or anything like that, or wait until the offseason to go, make a wide receiver move, they can maybe go get Elijah Moore. Okay. Now, as far as compensation goes, I'm going to say it's going to be pretty hefty. I don't think it's going to be, like a Jalen Ramsey, Jamal Adams type of deal, because both Ramsey and Adams were absolutely elite at their positions. I don't think anybody in football is saying Elijah Moore is a top 15 wide receiver. I just don't think that's the case, where Ramsey was the best corner in football and Adams was the best strong safety in football. If you don't want to go as far as to say he was the best strong safety, he was definitely top 3 when Seattle initially acquired him. Okay, so I don't think it's going to be that big of a haul. Plus, there could be some other wide receivers on the move, guys like Chase Claypool and whatnot. But I'm thinking a high mid-round pick, right? Maybe a second-round pick, a third-round pick, somewhere in there. Maybe a third and a futures pick. That's kind of the ideal range. Again, kind of just trying to project into the future what the Jets can initially get for more. Another thing to make a note of, Matt LaFleur is Mike LaFleur's brother. So he does sort of have that insider information, that insider scouting report, if you will. He can call Mike up. And there's no media involved. There's no sort of weird headlines. It's literally a conversation between brothers. Matt can say, yo, what's going on here? Why does Moore really want to leave? And if Matt doesn't really think it's that big of a deal, I could easily see the Jets swapping him over to Green Bay. The second team that I could see making a move is the Chicago Bears. I mean, we talked about this team along with the Packers in the Denzel Mims video that went up yesterday. But it's like Chicago, yeah, I love Mooney, and this is a run-first team, but I look at Elijah Moore as an instant upgrade over pretty much everybody in that wide receiver room right now for Chicago. I think the second he arrives in Chicago, Moore would be the number 2 option. The number 2 option for that Bears offense. I think if you are a Bears team and you are trying to rebuild this thing, right? They let Allen Robinson walk. They traded away Khalil Mack. They have a young quarterback in Justin Fields. Brand new coaching staff with Eberflus. I think it does make a little bit of sense to say, oh, we can go get a really talented guy and have him under control for a long time. We don't have to pay him $20 million. This isn't a Deebo Samuel type of thing here. We could still sit back and pay the rookie contract for a couple seasons and be fine and get a massive upgrade at the wide receiver position. Next up, team number 3 here, the Jacksonville Jaguars. I look at that wide receiving room, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, but that third guy, I really feel like Elijah Moore would be a nice boost, especially over the middle of the field in the short passing game for Trevor Lawrence to go get the football out to. There's again, as much as this trade request rubs me the wrong way, I do look at Elijah Moore as an effective football player. You can essentially put him like anywhere you want within the offense. You could send him on end arounds. You could let him up on the outside in a slot, even in the backfield if you really want him to. There's so many things, so many little nuance things that you can do with Moore, and it gets you excited. When you start thinking about the minds of offensive coordinators and whatnot. The only problem though is he going to run into the same issues with the Jaguars, right? Doug Peterson, Trevor Lawrence, that he did with the New York Jets. It's kind of a similar spot, right? 2 young, talented quarterbacks, 2 coaching staffs that are with organizations that haven't won in a really long time, and they're trying to build their or really instill their culture, build the foundation up. If he's if he gets traded to Jacksonville and doesn't, gets 5 targets in the span of 3 weeks, is he going to want out of Jacksonville? It sounds crazy to say that, but you kind of have to ask that question. I mean, you kind of have to. That's exactly what's playing out in New York. So I like Jacksonville from a schematic perspective as well. I do think it makes sense, but I definitely feel like Green Bay and Chicago make a little bit more right now. Okay, so next up, team number 4 here is the Baltimore Ravens. I look at Moore in that Ravens offense as a great systematic fit. A guy to where Lamar can just get up to the line of scrimmage, snap the ball, and just kick it right out to Moore. Right, little tunnel screens, stuff like that. I think he could be really effective. We also have to take into consideration their roster. Mark Andrews, an absolute beast when we're talking about receiving tight. I mean, he's one of the best tight ends in football. You have to account for Mark Andrews. If you line up Moore and Andrews on the same side of the field, especially close to the line, right, the offensive line, right, stack them, it's extremely difficult to cover that. And then you throw Bateman and Deshaun Jackson on the other side. Like, there's a lot of things, a lot of, he could really be a chess piece for Baltimore's offense. You look at where they do have success in the passing game, like the RPOs, the short passing stuff. You could even use him as a decoy if you want. But then, if you use him as a decoy, again, much like the Jacksonville situation, is he going to be happy with that, or is that going to continue to be a problem? So, I mean, when we just look at the scheme fit and how much of an impact he could have with the Ravens offense, I do think it makes a lot of sense. And then last but not least, we got the New York Giants here, okay? The 5-1 Giants. And the Giants, you can make an argument, could be like the Atlanta Falcons, where they're saying, you know what, we got something that's really, really good here. We don't want to inject this team with a distraction or, get a player in the building who's going to start, demanding the football or voicing his displeasure or whatever the case is, right? Basically just not a good locker room fit, right? You can make that argument for sure, but Richie James leads the Giants in receiving yards at 189. 189 receiving yards through 6 games is just, that's hardly any, right? That's just not a lot of yards. Now, granted, it's working. The Giants are winning football games, right? Comeback fashion. They're doing their thing, right? Daboll has that team rolling in the right direction. Awesome stuff. But is it really sustainable to continue on throughout the course of the season with not having that much success through the air? Okay, you look at Kadarius Toney, Kenny Golladay, both situations are just messy. Now the Giants are in a position to where it's like, hey, we can give up a mid-round pick and go get a cheap guy to help this football team. So we'll see if Elijah Moore gets traded over the coming days. One thing that's going to be really, really interesting is if he's not traded, is he going to be active for the Broncos game? Or are the Jets going to activate Denzel Mims or something like that? Because I'll find it a little weird, to be honest, if he suits up for the green and white and he's just in the game and it's like nothing ever happened against the Denver Broncos. I would just find that a little weird. But anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Is there another team, maybe like Carolina, Dallas, that you think Moore would be a really good fit with? I cannot believe we're having this discussion, right? I was setting everything up for the video. I'm like, am I really going to talk about trade scenarios for Elijah Moore? I'm like, yep, this is nuts. Absolutely crazy. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. And as always, go Jets.